Hi! Alright, so let's talk about Chapter 4, Introduction to Cognitive Science. Cognitive Science, Cognitive Information. So, objectives, we're going to describe what cognitive science is, assess how the human mind processes and generates information and knowledge, explore cognitive informatics, examine artificial intelligence and its relationship to cognitive science and computer science. So, cognitive science, let's talk about what it is. Alright, so it's the interdisciplinary field that studies the mind, intelligence, and behavior from an information processing perspective. It provides the scaffolding for the analysis and modeling of complicated, multifaceted human performance, and therefore has a tremendous effect on the issues impacting informatics. End user is the focus since we are concerned with enhancing performance in the workplace. In nursing, the end user could be the actual clinician in the clinical setting, and cognitive science can enhance the integration and implementation of technology being designed to facilitate this knowledge worker with the ultimate goal of improving patient care. Wow, that was a mouthful, Denise. What does all that mean? All right, it's the fourth of four basic building blocks used to understand informatics, okay? So we look at nursing science, information science, computer science, and considering how each relates to and helps one understand the concept of informatics. So this chapter, we're now going to talk about cognitive informatics, right? Our cognitive science, our ability to process information. Throughout centuries, cognitive science has intrigued philosophers and educators alike. So in Greece, when they're talking about how the mind works, what is the nature of knowledge, that age-old quest to unravel the process inherent in the working brain, undertaken by some of the greatest minds in history. However, only about 50 years ago, did the computer operations and actions link to cognitive science, meaning theories of the mind, intellect, or brain. So mirroring the way our brain works, the way the computer works, so that you can work more symbiotically with that. So, let's look at connectionism. So really quick, the interdisciplinary field of cognitive science studies mind, intelligence, and behavior, right? The term cognitive science was coined by Christopher Langent-Higgins in 1973, and basically it's an artificial intelligence research. It's an interdisciplinary base that comes from psychology, philosophy, neuroscience, computer science, linguistics, which is the study of language, biology, physics, and it covers memory, attention, perception, reasoning, language, mental ability, and computational models. So connectivism is a cognitive science that uses computer modeling through artificial neural networks to try to explain human intellectual abilities. What? I don't know what that means. Okay, neural networks are thought to be these interconnected simple processing devices, right? So simplified models of the brain and nervous system that consist of a considerable numbers of elements or units. So like the neurons, that's the analog, linked together in a pattern of connection. The synapses, that's the analog. A neural network models the entire nervous system. And it has three types of units. Input units, right, so our sensory neurons, which receive information to be processed. Hidden units, which work in between input and output units. And then our output units, which is our motor neurons, where the outcomes or results of the processing are found. Connectivism is rooted in how computation occurs in the brain and nervous system. On their own, single neurons have minimal computational capacity, right? Like if you're just looking at sensory, that's not enough. Okay, you feel something, but how do you compute it, and then how do you act on what you feel? When interconnected with other neurons, however, they have immense computational power. Connectivism system or model learns by modifying the connections linking the neurons, just as neurons form elaborate information processing network. So, let me just go down here to explain it more. Sorry. The end user, the mind is frequently compared to a computer, right? And experts in computer science strive to understand how the mind processes data and information. So in contrast, experts in cognitive science model human thinking using artificial networks provided by computers, sometimes referred to as artificial intelligence. So how does the mind process all the inputs received? Which items and in which way are things stored or placed into memory? How are they reconfigured? How is it restored? So cognitive science kind of provides that blueprint for how we analyze and model complicated information. And end user, that's the focus of the activity because it concerns us with how we actually work in the workplace with our computer. So let's talk about sources of knowledge. So sources of knowledge, just like philosophers question the nature of knowledge, they also strive to determine how knowledge arises, right? Okay, so there are two compelling traditions concerning the ultimate source of knowledge. There's empiricism and rationalism. All right, empiricism is based on knowledge being derived from experience, right? And rationalism contends that some of our knowledge is derived from reason, but also in the acquisition. Empiricists don't recognize innate knowledge, where rationalists believe that there's innate knowledge, so stuff we're born with, and then stuff that we acquire. Three sources of knowledge are identified. Instinct, right? Your gut. Reason, your ability to process information based on past experience. And intuition, which is both using instinct and reason. So instinct is when one reacts without reason, such as when a car is heading toward a pedestrian and you jump out of the way without thinking. So instinct is found in both humans and animals, whereas reason and intuition are found only in humans. That we know. Just kidding. All right, intuition is a way of acquiring knowledge that can't be obtained by inference, deduction, observation, or reason, right? A leap of understanding, a grasping of larger concept unreachable by other intellectual means. That is intuition, based by Aristotle. Some believe that knowledge is acquired through perception and logic. Perception is that process of acquiring knowledge about the environment or situation by obtaining, interpreting, and selecting, organizing sensory information. Logic is a science that deals with principles and criteria of validity of inference. And then there's reasoning, which is where logic bases that formal principle. So let's talk about the nature of knowledge. So the nature of knowledge is, the study of that is epistemology, the study of nature and origin of knowledge. So what it means to know. How do you know that? Anyone can have a conception of what it means to know based on their own perception, education, and experience. So the whole point in collecting and building data, information, and knowledge is to be able to make informed, judicious, prudent, and intelligent decisions, right? It abounds with others' thoughts and information, or consists of information that's synthesized so that relationships are identified and formed. The decision-making process evolves around knowledge and wisdom. So wisdom is defined in numerous ways. Knowledge applied in a practical way, translated into actions. The use of knowledge and experience to heighten common sense and insight to exercise sound judgment in practical matters. The highest form of common sense results from accumulated knowledge or erudition, which is deep, thorough learning, or enlightenment, education that results in understanding and dissemination of knowledge. The ability to apply valuable and viable knowledge, experience, understanding, and insight while being prudent and sensible. It focused on our own minds and the synthesis of our experience, insight, and understanding. It's that decision-making and job performance. So, what is knowledge? It's the awareness and understanding of a set of information and ways that information can be made useful to support a specific task or arrive at a decision. It abounds with others' thoughts and information, or is information that's synthesized so that relationships are identified and formalized. So what's wisdom? It's knowledge applied in a practical way, and we just talked about that. We're using our past experience and our knowledge to come to a conclusion. So cognitive informatics, it's described as an emerging transdisciplinary field of study that attempts to bridge the gap of understanding how information is processed in the mind and in the computer. Computing and informatics theories can be applied to help understand the information process of the brain, and cognitive and neurologic sciences can likewise be applied to build better and more efficient computer processing systems. Artificial intelligence, the field that deals with the conception and development, implementation of informatics tools based on intellectual technology.